So in the last video, I shared with you what's going on underneath the surface of emotional eating. And so much of it has to do with our emotions, not knowing how to navigate through the emotions that we feel, the inner stress and the tension and the anxiety, and maybe even the anger and whatever emotions are there that are troubling to us, and we just don't know how to navigate through them. So for many people, the go-to place is to eat. And again, there's really nothing wrong with you if you're having this issue. It's natural for the mind to want to find some way to either fill or suppress when we're lacking something or when we're needing something, or when we simply don't know what to do in a situation. So I really want you to bear that in mind throughout this whole time that I'm taking you kind of on this process. The main thing that I want to share with you today is a new process of how to work with our emotions. And I'm going to show you a technique that some of you may be familiar with. If you're not, I would encourage you to Google it and kind of check out a little bit more about it. There's a lot of science behind it. It's a well-researched technique. And it's very, very effective in doing more than just working with emotional eating. That's actually something that people have discovered that you can use it for more recently. But it's been used for things like physical pain and phobias and all sorts of stuff. So check it out and look at the science behind it. It's fantastic and it's very simple. It's called Emotional Freedom Technique. You'll either hear it referred to as EFT or some people call it tapping, which is what you'll probably hear me refer to it as. And tapping is it's essentially a way to communicate with the brain to help rewire the brain whenever there's a stress response, whenever we are triggered by something that comes up and there's this surge of either stress or anxiety or fear, or like I said, anger, or just sadness or just major emotion. And even if it's minor, kind of a low-grade chronic stress that we have all the time, you probably will feel this a lot, especially during the stress and the overwhelm of holidays and things that are going on and people and triggers with people. And lots of this stuff can be rolling around underneath the surface. We don't realize that it's actually happening and it's actually affecting us until we sort of come out with a behavior like, oh my gosh, I just want to eat everything in sight. And that is not because there's anything wrong with you. Again, I'm going to keep harping on this point. It's because whenever we're not meant to live with that type of stress, and so we need something to calm it down. We would legitimately need something to sort through, what's going on, and oftentimes we don't have that. And so this technique is a really great way to give us a moment to help clear the emotional stress as it comes up. So I'm not going to go into the science behind it because there's other people who can explain it way better than I can. But essentially, it's helping communicate with the brain to calm down the stress as it comes up. So what you want to do is let me just teach you the process, and then I'll kind of share with you a little bit about how we're going to use that over the next 10 days. So the process is just a simple process that we call tapping, and it is basically taking meridian points that are on, we're going to use the ones on our face and our chest, and these meridian points communicate with the brain to tell the stress response to calm down. So by simply tapping on these points while you are kind of focusing in on the issue and on the stress helps send the brain the signal to calm the stress down. Fun, right? Really simple and really easy. Tapping is a very forgiving process. It's not complicated. That's what's wonderful about it. And it doesn't have to be super precise. But let me show you the tapping points. The first one is right here on the eyebrow point. It's just right at that bone. It's not in the eye and it's not in the center. It's just right there. And that's the first one. The second one is the side of the eye. Again, not in the eye and not on the temple, but right there in the middle. And you would just tap about 7 or 8 times on each of these points. You don't have to really count. It's just every few seconds you switch. Again, it's very forgiving. You're just wanting to stimulate those points to communicate with the brain. Third point is here underneath the eye. Again, on that bone right there, not in the eye and not too low. Underneath the nose, you tap on those. And on the chin. And then the collarbone point is right where this there's kind of an indentation here that you will feel. And then just go down a little bit and slightly out. And I usually use just a few fingers there to kind of get that general area. It's a really great one. And then the top of the head. And this is just right along this governing meridian right here. The governing meridian runs from your forehead all the way down to the base of your spine, and it's a super important. It deals with a lot of stuff. Those of you who have done things like emotion code, you'll know exactly what the governing meridian is. But if you don't, it's okay. You just tap on the top of your head. And again, it's just like 7 or 8 points, really simple. So let me just go through that process again. This is the first one, the eyebrow point, side of the eye, underneath the eye, underneath the nose, the chin, collarbone, and the top of the head. It's really simple. I know for some of you it may feel a little weird, like tapping on your face. It took me a little while to get comfortable with that. If that's you, don't worry about it. You'll get used to it and get comfortable with it. But what's happening is we're stimulating these meridian points. They're communicating with the brain to calm the stress down. So when you utilize this sort of stress reliever to help rewire the brain, and it's calming everything down as you're turning it towards the truth. Because oftentimes what's going on is when we have the stress comes up, we're essentially believing lies about ourselves. We have these beliefs that we're maybe not aware of. They're under the surface and they're affecting us, but we're not really aware of them, and we don't really know why they're there. So the good thing about tapping is you don't have to know why. You don't have to know why the stress is there necessarily. You just need to be able to acknowledge it, tune into it, and use the tapping process to clear out the energy. Now that is the simplistic version, and I'm going to give you some specific ideas about how to work with it. More specific things for what to do with the food and with the emotions, and I kind of combine some modalities along with it, which is a really fun thing to do. So the way that this is, there's one more I need to show you. There's kind of a pre-tapping point, and it's called the karate chop point, and that's right on the side of the hand here. And it's right where the bone and the flesh meet, right there, and you just use a few fingers, and you just tap on that. And we use that for what we call a setup statement. And I don't always use this, but if I say start on the karate chop point, you'll know what I'm talking about. This is to set up this scenario. So I'm just going to give you kind of an example of what a tapping process would look like. So what you'll start out by doing is acknowledging the emotion flooding through you, and acknowledge the issue or the pain, whatever it is. So let me just start with a really general one. If I have like a lot of stress, let's say I'm just going throughout my day and I just feel the stress in my body, and I'm just about to go nuts. What I'll do, sit down, and I'll start with acknowledging the stress that I'm feeling in my body. And the main point here that's so crucial is to tune in on the feeling. Now, we are not used to doing this. We're used to logically rationalizing our way out of feelings because we don't know what to do with our feelings usually. And because they're so familiar, we feel like they're normal and we just need to get over it and live with it. But we must be willing to feel and hone in and tune in on that feeling in order to clear it out. So what I'm doing here is sitting down saying, acknowledging the stress in the moment. So what I would say is I would tap on the karate chop point and say, even though I have all of this stress or all this anxiety, and then I would say, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. So what I'm saying is, I've got all this stress and anxiety, all this stuff coming up for me, but I deeply accept how I feel, and I accept myself. And for some of you, this may be a little bit difficult to say. And if it is, I totally understand. I was that way too when I first started. I thought, love myself? Is that even okay? Can I even do that? There's so much more I'd love to say about this topic, but just know that if you're struggling with that, that's very normal. You can, a way to reframe that would be to say, I want to love and accept myself, or I'm open to learning to love and accept myself. So, again, tapping on the karate chop point, we would acknowledge the stress and anxiety or whatever's coming up for us, and then say, I deeply love and accept myself. And then we would start tapping through the points. So we would start with the eyebrow point, and I would just acknowledge the stress that's going on in my body. And that helps me focus in on it, and that also helps me really validate it and feel it. And so I just tap through the point saying certain phrases, in which with each phrase you switch points. So for example, I'd say all the stress and anxiety, this is really messing up my day. I feel this anxiety in my stomach, things like that. And we would tap through to acknowledge it until we feel that like the body kind of like loosens its grip just a little bit, calms down the stress just a little bit. And then we'd start shifting it towards the truth. Now I'm going to be leading you in some meditations. Essentially, I'm going to be sending those to you so that you can do this process for yourself. So I'll send you videos to explain what's going on, and then I'll give you a meditation or something that will help you be able to know what to do in the moment. When you're having a moment where you just want to eat everything in sight, whenever you feel so stressed that you don't really know what to do, whenever you're feeling the guilt and anxiety around food, around I don't even know what choice to make. I'm going to give you some things for that. So there's just a lot of fun things ahead. And again, if you get a chance, study up a little bit more on EFT tapping and what that is, and it'll give you a little bit more of a grasp of the science behind it if that's important to you. And then also get to know the process as much as you can. Get used to the tapping points, because I'll have you be doing or thinking about other things while you're tapping through the points. Okay, that's it for now. Thanks, y'all.